Hello, this is Lawrence Romanosky, Calgary, Alberta, and we just happen to have here three Porsche 356s. And why, which isn't, well actually it is kind of uncommon in Calgary at least, because I'm not sure, well there might be a half a dozen, no there's probably a dozen in the city or something, at least that I know about, that are running. But what makes this collection interesting is that there are three different expressions of a restored 356. This is my car, and you'd call this a preservation style restoration, because looking at the car you'd think that it's just kind of rolled out of the barn, and when in fact the whole car has been basically disassembled and restored. But it doesn't look like this one. This car has been restored too, but this car, this is a 356B, and this car would have been restored to, you know, as new or a little bit better condition. So you can take a car apart and restore it and have it look like this, or you can have it look like that. Now, of course, 19 out of 20 people probably want to, if they're going to go through the trouble of disassembling the car, probably want it to look like that. But you know, there are a growing number of people who are viewing old cars as a historical artifact, and not trying to make it look new, but trying to preserve the 50 years of history that the car wears proudly. So this is what we call sympathetic restorations or preservation restorations, and there are classes now at Pebble Beach, and most Concours now following the lead for preservation classes. Okay, and then there's this other 356. Now this is also, this guy is a 356C 1964, and so is this one, but this guy has restored his with completely different aims. So it is, you know, an as new looking 356, except that of course no 356 has ever left the factory with Fuchs wheels and two-tone interiors and etc. So this guy's taken some liberties with the restoration, and they're all pretty cars. Depending on your own sensibilities, you know, you could restore. You could restore all your car in any one of these ways. Now, what this guy did is he figured he was going to take a 356 and didn't really care too much about originality, and so he sort of bolted on the performance pieces that would have been available in period. So there were 356s from the factory that were testing the Fuchs wheels in period, although they never sold with them, but of course they're sold on the 911. So there were cars running with those rims as factory test cars. I know that this car has, it's a C, but I know it has the carburetors and engine modifications to make it an SC. None of these cars has what would be an original exhaust. On the Cs and SCs from this era, there would have been different overriders, and the exhaust would have come through the bottom of the overrider. These, by the way, are on upside down for some inexplicable reason. The problem is when you get the exhaust coming out here, it just makes a mess of the chrome. So just about everybody did something different. For this one, he took away the overriders and then piped the exhaust through the indents, which actually looks pretty good, actually. So, and then this car has quite a bit more chrome in it. You can see the badge is a different color. You can see the treatment of the grills is a different color. This car is, except for the routing of the exhaust, completely stock. In fact, 85% of it is original paint. If we look at this SC, you know, we can see the aftermarket Nardi wheel, and we can see the two-tone interior, and you know, none of that would have come from the factory like that. And I don't think this color would have been, you wouldn't have got this from the factory. And I'm not sure about the color, but I don't think you could get this silver. So this guy took some liberties with it. And if you look around the car, you can see some improvements in various ways. Anyway, it's an attractive car, and it brings up the performance. Already good with a C. To higher than that. The C's, of course, have the disc brakes. So anyway, that's one car. Here's my car. It's a preservation car. So people look at it and ask you when you're going to restore it. But this car did have some metal work done in the sills and so on. So if you look at this car, this is all original paint. There's original marks. There's like original stone chips. Every panel you can see where you know, the history of the car. You know, every panel has got paint chips in it and stuff, and small ones. But what you see with my car is all the original panel gaps, which if you've ever taken a car apart and tried to put it back together again with some body work, then you don't get the panel gaps anymore. So with my car, the areas of metal in the door closure areas and the areas of metal in the sills and all of this metal is new as well. All of this area here is new as well. So we buffed up the old paint. We blew in new paint where it was needed. But you can see on these fenders, you know, the whole fender wasn't repainted. It was just blended as little as possible, keeping all of these original marks. And then with the trim, you know, you can see it starting to give a little bit of wear there, etc. But at least you know that this is the original panel with the car, and you know that there's no Bondo in this car. So the integrity of the body shell is known and obvious to be perfect. You know, this is the car. This is a 50-year-old car, and this is, for a lot of people, this is what 50-year-old cars are supposed to look like. So anyway, that's this one. And then here we have what you call a, you know, I wouldn't call it a Concours restoration, but a typical restoration where the car looks new, where it has factory colors, where it's you know, all the pieces are stock. You know, you can see everything's been replated or new. You know, the paint is perfect, and I mean, this one's gorgeous too. You know, this would probably be the most common, where you're restoring it to look like the car, like what it would have looked like when it rolled out of the showroom floor. And anyway, it's a beautiful car. Again, it got a period wheel. This one has, I think, a couple extra gauges that are let into the dash for oil pressure. Or I guess just the oil pressure gauge is let in. And we've got a few things. We've got the wood knob for the gear shift, and we've got the wooden wheel, which wouldn't have been stock. And it looks like we've got a leather upholstery, which was an option on these cars actually. But certainly this is a much fancier interior than the one I have. In this year, the Porsches are made in two factories. There's Reuter cars and there's Carmen cars. I don't know if you can see that, but this is a Reuter car, and this is a 356B, which means it has disc or drum wheels, drum brakes, and you can see that the fins of the alloy brake drums in the wheel. And then these other two cars are disc brake cars. So you can see that you know, we did take out all of the glass. We disassembled the car, replaced all the windscreen rubbers. This car did get a new carpet and a new headliner because it was too far gone, but the door panels and all of the vinyl and all of the seat material, etc., is all original, and that is the original wheel and a remanufactured correct Blaupunkt radio with the speaker. Now I did actually install a iPod connector in here too, so you can actually tune the FM radio and have it play your iPod. And you can see in the interior that the steering wheel shows some slight cracking. You can see some pitting on the chrome. You can see, you know, various signs that, well, you know, this is a 50-year-old car. Anyway, there are just 3 different ways to restore a Porsche 356. All of them cost lots of money. Restoring the preservation car wasn't necessarily any less than restoring this one. So it's a little bit not unintuitive to take a whole car apart and have it look like you hadn't even started. Whereas if you take the whole car apart and paint everything, you kind of want to look like that. And it probably would have been less money to make it look like this than try to spend all that time and screw around and try to match the paint and everything. But like I said, for some people, for some purists, you know, they want the old cars to look like old cars. So, and some people want an old car, but they want more performance and more go-fast goodies, and then it looks like that. Anyway, Lawrence Romanosky from Calgary, Canada. Thanks for viewing. And, you know, if you guys were to leave a comment, I'd be interested to know which of the three you would prefer. Restored as it left the factory, preservation, resto mod, not quite. You call that an outlaw with a 356. I wouldn't say that. I would just say period performance enhancements. Okay, thanks everybody.